I'm going to hell. Hey guys, so today's video we're going back to Reddit because for some reason you guys absolutely loved the Entitled Parents one, so we're gonna jump back to that. I did see a story last time. Well, I tried to save it, I don't know where it went. I don't really use Reddit except for doing these reactions, I'm not gonna lie. Can someone tell me where the fuck... is it there? Oh, I'm an idiot. Before I get started as well, I just wanted to give some love to my alien. Tried to show the beefiness of her head in the last video, but because how fucking dark it is back here, I don't think it could be appreciated, so I wanted to bring her forward. Also, she has teeth, and she does have a proper tongue. She's so funny. I want to get a Michael Myers one next. You might see that in the next video. Anyway, settle in, this is going to be a long one. Entitled Parents Reddit story is called I, 30 female, and the villain of my parents, 48 female and 51 male story, and I'm okay with that. So their mum had them at 18. Look, I'm not saying that people who have parents young? Jesus. I'm not saying people who have kids young are bad parents, but you do see more entitled children or brattish children from younger parents because they haven't developed fully yet before they, become a parent. To be fair, who the fuck am I to say, because I've never had children, but from what I've heard from people I know who've worked in, school districts and stuff like that, that's the reputation they have. Not to say that's the same with all of them, because, as I say. Anyway, person starts off, English is not my first language, and this is a long story, so I apologise in advance. I guarantee can speak better English than I can speak any other language, so you are, of course, forgiven. Okay, my mother, Dee, got pregnant at 17. Okay, yeah, so while my father, Jay, was 20, they were not a couple, and he had a girlfriend at the time. So when the news was out, things got chaotic. From what I was told, Jay was a womanizer that cheated on his girlfriend multiple times, so he wanted nothing to do with Dee. Poor Dee. She talked to his mother and sisters about the pregnancy and her wanting a relationship with Jay. I'm already confused. But he wasn't the type to listen to people telling him what to do, so he distanced himself of the situation and continued his relationship with his girlfriend. Before getting pregnant, Dee was already a problem for her parents. That's not a good sign. Now 75 female and 82 male. Because she lived by her own rules, was very disrespectful, had a habit of lying, sneaking out of the house to party, and dropped out of school at 16. See? People who are 16, 17, 18 are not fully developed yet, so they are going to be more like this. That's why immediately my expectation, I could see this being a problem, because there is a reason why normally they say, wait until your late 20s, early 30s to have kids, because you are completely developed mentally and you've had some life experience. Because, 18, you should be able to go out and party and have fun and live your life, experience things. Anyway, she always had a strange relationship with her brother, 2 years younger. What do you mean by strange? Because she thought he received a better treatment from their parents. Right, got it. When Dee was 7 months pregnant, grandparents decided to move to a bigger city against her wishes. Not really up to her, because they thought her relationship with Jay was unhealthy, and this way they could help raise me while she would go back to school. The mother of the story has dropped out of school, partying all the time, but is due to have a baby. It's probably best to put them in an environment that is healthy, and it doesn't sound like that was going to be a very healthy environment for her. My grandma was the breadwinner. My uncle got a job at 15 to help with the bills, while my grandfather was SAHGD. I don't know what that means. Someone tell me in the comments. That would last a couple of years until Dee became obsessed with another guy, decided to marry him, and took me to live with them when I was 2. Her husband, male, 2 years younger than her, works at his father's company. They had a party all the time lifestyle with a child. That's not good. And I was always with them on road trips, parties, pubs and barbecues with friends. When I was 4, my sister G was born, and with the new baby they couldn't party together daily like they did before. That's when M started to go out without D. So the stepfather is now going out without the mum. What, is she going to start getting annoyed? And when he came back home very drunk, they argued a lot, had scream matches, and after some years of this dynamic, he eventually started to hit her. Jesus! Dee's relationship with M's parents was rocky, so the stepdad's parents, and they judged her for being a young mum, and he's a fucking young dad too now, so put your judgment where it deserves, and considered her a gold digger. He's pretty young for her to be a gold digger. When she asked for their help because his alcoholism and the domestic violence, they helped, but blamed her. fucking hate when people blame others for their own children's domestic violence. Put that blame where it deserves. We're not even probably anywhere near close to finishing this story, and I'm already getting angry. But blamed her and the pressure she put on him of being a breadwinner while being so young. D and M tried to work things out for a while, but eventually his addiction won and they divorced. That's probably the best. Unfortunately, when people are addicts, you need to take your children out of that environment. It can get very deadly very quickly. And they divorced when I was 7. Dee, me and my sister went to live with my maternal grandparents. One thing I remember about Dee's and M's marriage was a constant tension in M's parents' house, so the stepdad's house. Dee and M had me calling him dad since I was 3, so I used to call everyone grandpa, grandma, uncle, auntie, and everyone was polite but not warm. When G, who the fuck is G? Oh, her sister, right. When G was born, everyone treated her so well. She was everyone's favourite. She always received kisses, hugs, compliments, and I didn't understand why people didn't treat me the same. That's really sad. They also treated G better. So your own mother is treating... Oh, why am I not surprised? Because I've seen this myself. I always had the feeling that D didn't like me because she almost never hugged me or talked to me, ignored me when I tried to show affection, and was always cold towards me. And M, he always seemed like he didn't want to be a father or a husband, and was always, maybe he should have fucking wrapped it up then, referring to the second child, not the first, and was always doing stupid things to feel alive, like speeding his cars while drunk, or sitting at the window with his legs out in our apartment at the 29th floor. Yeah, my dad used to drive a lot of cars drunk too. A few months after their divorce, he took me to a trip to the mall, and as we ate McDonald's, she told me M was not my father and I actually had another dad. She then introduced me to Jay. Where the fuck did he come from? Who had a quick chat with me, brought me a doll, and then he went home. It was a weird day. Yeah, I bet. It's one way to fucking find out. A few months passed and I saw him again at a doctor's appointment, who was in fact a DNA test. He was with his wife, as he was now married to his girlfriend from when he was younger, and they didn't speak to me and Dee at all. The test became positive and I officially had Jay's last name. Why? Added to my name. He started to pay child... You don't have to have the last name of your biological parent for them to pay child support. So I'm not sure why that was necessary, but okay. He started to pay child support. I never saw him again after the day we had the test done. Yikes. Money was tight in our house because grandma and uncle worked, but were paid minimum wage. Grandpa worked as a handyman and carpenter, so challenging to feed everyone, pay rent, utilities, clothes. Dee had child support from Jay and M's family, but would always claim she had no money. M was a wreck and completely out of control, and his family hated to pay child support, so after a few months, M's parents offered to raise my little sister as they were wealthy and could provide for her and enroll her in good schools. I remember being so confused because I didn't want to be separated from my sister, understandably, and I wanted to live with my grandma too, but she was not my grandma. Dee accepted the offer and started to live by her own rules again. She worked and was barely home when she had free time. Fucking hell. We're not even anywhere near close to being near the end of this. After my sister went to live with her parents, I became a lonely kid. She would come home to our home every other week for the first year, but then her grandparents started to bring her less and less to see us, and Dee didn't care enough to go see her at their house as well. Jesus Christ, she's not even going to see her own kid and making sure that the two kids get to see each other. This is sad. Sometimes she would send me to spend time at their house, and it was always weird because, again, people were polite but not warm. I felt so much resentment because my sister lived a better life than mine. Yeah, I can see that. Obviously, kids don't know, don't understand. With toys, clothes, trips, private school, language classes, which, while I was in public school and mostly alone in my house watching TV and playing with old or donated toys, we had two completely different lives, but one thing in common was that Dee wasn't present in any of them. Ever since her divorce, Dee became colder and more distant. She worked all day and partied all night, from Monday to Monday. I'm guessing they mean Monday to Sunday. And almost always slept at her friend's house to avoid going home and have to listen to her parents lecture her for not taking care of her kids. She had a terrible relationship with her parents, and the three of them would always fight because money and responsibilities. When I was 8, I asked her why did she have kids if she didn't like kids. This is the fucking question, isn't it? Why do people insist on having children when they don't actually want children, or can't even look after the children they have? And by that I mean people who have families with 10 plus children and end up having the older children look after the younger children, and then the older children end up resenting the parents because they lose, their teenage years because they're constantly looking after their siblings. Yeah, I also don't really understand it. Have kids, go for it. But I do think you have to be responsible for them. Your kids should not be responsible for themselves. Dee told me she wanted to have an abortion when she was pregnant with me, and Jay rejected her, but her parents didn't consent, and that's why she hated them. I mean, I get it, but don't tell your fucking kid that. My grandparents didn't have the habit of saying I love you, but they showed me love by taking care of me with kindness and respect. And I also learned a lot from my uncle, who loved to spend time with me when he was home from work. I used to pray every night asking for God. Oh, okay, we've got God lovers. That's why they didn't want her to have an abortion. I used to pray every night asking God that my grandparents reveal that they're my real parents and Dee was just a mean sister. I remember sometimes not having a proper shoe or clothes to go to school, and my grandma would buy it for me even if she didn't have the extra money. But in her bedroom, Dee had a nice big collection of high heels, high-end clothes. Feel really bad for this girl. When I was 9, Dee got together with her second husband, E, 15 years older than her. He had 2 daughters from his first marriage who were 12 and 14 at the time and lived with their mum. I never confirmed that, but it always seemed like they had some kind of agreement that he would not raise someone else's kid. E used to pretend I didn't exist and ignore me. He wouldn't talk to me or acknowledge me if I was in the same room. When I was 11, my mum became pregnant with my sister Elle. Jesus Christ, this girl needs to use protection or have a coil fitted or something. Like, girl needs to stop getting pregnant. When I was 11, my mum became pregnant with my sister Elle and went to live with E. My grandma asked her to take me, but she talked to me in private and asked me to say to my grandparents that I didn't want to go with her because she wanted to start a new family. Fucking hell, you told your 11-year-old you wanted to start a new family? Are you fucking kidding?
Stop it. Get some help.
1 year and 5 months after Elle was born, Dee gave birth to my brother R, another kid. So that's 4 she's got now. 1 of which is with another grandparents, another is with her grandparents, and then she's got 2 that she's currently looking after. When R was 1 and Elle was 2, E lost his job and 4 of them went to live with us at my grandparents' house. No. You wanted your new fucking life. You don't get to come crawling back. Dee had to work and I was used as a nanny for the babies. What did I say? I didn't have a normal life for a 13-year-old and missed birthday parties and school events because I was taking care of 2 babies at home. My sister G rarely came to our house, but when she came, Dee showered her with love and I resented her so much that I stopped going to her grandparents' house to see her. At the same time, I was basically raising my little brother and sister. Dee would berate me for everything. She would yell at me that I was too fat, that I was ugly because of acne. Do you know how many years it took for me to get over the fact that just because I had acne did not mean I was fucking ugly? Oh, and, fat too, because I had a fucking eating disorder. That my hair was weird and that everything in me was bad because I had bad blood. Oh, fuck this mother, seriously. She hated that my grandparents treated me well. Someone had to, and liked me. If I asked to go to study with friends, she would guilt trip me because the kids needed me and liked to be with me. They're not your kids, they're not your problem. You go hang out with your fucking friends and have your teenagehood like you should. She would go out with E almost every night and I was the one making the kids dinner, bath and sleep time as my grandma didn't want to raise 2 more grandkids. I don't know why the grandparents let them move in with them because this was so inevitable. This woman has never ever taken responsibility for herself and her kids. He didn't have a new job but would spend the day out working. Later we discovered he was addicted to gambling. Wow, she knows how to pick him, doesn't she? And worked as a poker player for his wealthy friends. As the years passed, I became an angry teenager. Completely fucking understandable, because I felt misunderstood, lonely and used. I started to yell back at Dee when she yelled at me, and our home became a place full of tension. My uncle moved in with his girlfriend and her kid, and I hated that me and my grandparents were stuck with Dee and E at our house. Kick them out. I loved my baby brother and sister like they were mine. This is the sad thing, is there is that dynamic because she's the one constantly looking after them. And at the same time, I hated to be put in that situation without a choice. Everyone used to say, you need to help your mum with the kids. But all I wanted was a normal teenage life. So I started to dismiss Dee's requests and do my own thing. Good for you. It's her responsibility, not yours. At 15, I met F, 2 years older than me. He is now my boyfriend and we live together, and started to go out with friends more and have a social life. Dee hated this because it meant she had to step up more as a parent to her young kids. What a surprise. That's why, if you don't want to have kids, don't fucking have them. There are plenty of types of contraception. There are ways to, I can't remember it, like sterilize yourself. And they're also, just get the guys to wear a fucking condom. If you're going to have kids, you have to be responsible for them. It's your responsibility, not your fucking child's. When I was 17, I was seen as difficult and rebel. because I stopped listening to Dee's orders and requests. My sister G was 13 at the time, and she used to come to our house once every 4 months. One day I discovered G's Twitter was full of self-hating and borderline suicide tweets. Yeesh. I remember being shocked, and I messaged her telling her to stop playing with serious matters because killing yourself is not a joke. She didn't reply. Yeah, this girl's 17, has had a shitty childhood. I cannot blame her for her reaction, especially considering, again, people who are 17 do not have the frontal lobe or cortex or whatever, fully developed, which is why I fucking said that people this young should not be having children. I was suicidal around this 13, 14, so I completely see where G's coming from. You don't have to have OP's experience to be suicidal. That is depression. That is a mental illness. So I don't think it was attention seeking. I think she was probably screaming for help, especially as, you know, she's got a shitty mum just like the OP has. I didn't follow her on Twitter but kept track of her activity daily, and at some point I became so worried that I sent a few of her tweets to our cousin. It was her cousin from M's side. Her father printed the tweets and showed them to their grandparents, and after a few conversations with G's mental health, they decided and informed G that G would live with her at grandma's house. When I learned this, I was surprisingly happy and felt so much joy because I would have my sister near me and share a room with her, and I wanted so much to be the one to tell her, so I called her home. M picks up the phone, and when I asked him if I could speak to G, he told me no. He told me that she was sad that day and he was taking care of her. I insisted, but he kept saying no and eventually hung up the phone. The next morning I woke up with Dee's phone ringing at 7 a.m. and then she ran downstairs, oh my god, to my room and yelled, "Wake up, your sister killed herself." Wow, this has taken a seriously dark turn. The days following my sister's suicide were something I can't explain. I felt guilty. It's not your fault. You did everything you could. I felt angry. I wanted to scream to D and M that it was their fault, but I didn't have any words. I was so mad. M tried to apologize to me at her funeral for the call and comfort me, but I couldn't even look at him. Not once D tried to comfort me or say something nice. She was in pain and was feeling guilty as well. G's grandparents felt so bad they didn't even attend the funeral. I dropped out of high school when I still had 6 months to graduate because I felt so much pain that I couldn't go back to my normal life. Then I started to feel angry at G, and this anger lasted a few years. 1 year after G's death, I was feeling so lost. I found Jay's phone number and called him. We met at the same mall from when I was 7, and I explained to him that I was grieving heavily and wanted a relationship with him because one I had with D was so dysfunctional. He said nice things and made promises, and then we went home and never contacted me again. From 18 to 21, I was a wreck. I graduated high school and started college, but dropped out after the first semester. I had a job and spent all my money on alcohol and drugs. I tried all drugs you can imagine and went out to drink every day. But I was still responsible and maintained my job. Probably not as well as you think. This is the thing with people who are on drugs or alcohol. They don't actually realise how bad it is until they wake up from it. I was living with my grandparents while D and E lived with L and R. That's the younger kids, I think. I helped financially at home and started to have a serious career, but I was still coping badly with my grief and suffering from PTSD. D had a reality check with G's death and became a good mum to L and R. Stopped with the party life and had a nice job. When I turned 22, me and F, my good friend from high school, started to date, and at 24 I moved in with him and went back to college. We now have a dog, an apartment, good jobs and a strong relationship. Me and D started to have a good relationship as well, with ups and downs, and not like mother-daughter but more like sisters. I started to say things like, I'm proud of D because now she is there for L and R, the mother she never was for me and G. She never liked F much because he knows our history and is very protective of me. Someone needs to be. So he doesn't like her and makes it very clear. Once my life had some stability, I was able to work on my grief and on forgiving myself and G for her death. But deep down, I really never forgave D and M. A couple of years ago, I started to wonder what happened to Jay. I was still hurt from our last contact when I was 18, but felt the need to know more about him, so I found him on Instagram and we started to chat. He asked to meet me for lunch and I agreed, so he came to my city and we met. He was very apologetic, telling me how he regretted his choice of not being part of my life. He told me he had a daughter who was then 12, now 14, and that he was divorced from his wife but still living with her. He said that she was the main reason he didn't have a relationship with me because she hated D and didn't want him to be a dad to his affair. I'm not being funny, you can't blame your wife. That's up to you whether you have a relationship with all of your children or not, and you can have those difficult conversations conversations to make sure, because having relationships with your children is fucking important. And if you don't want to, then don't blame anyone else but yourself. He chose her, and now their marriage was over, and he wanted to start a real father-daughter relationship with me. He told me he owns a car dealership store, has a boat, lives near the beach in a nice house with a pool, and that he resents his ex-wife because she never wanted him to enjoy the things he loves, like fishing, travelling, being by the sea. He also admitted he cheated on her a lot in the last 30 years, but claimed to love her even if he didn't know how to be a good husband. I don't believe that. After our lunch, I met Dee. As she lived nearby, we always met to go to the supermarket together. During our car trip, I told her about my lunch with Jay and told her the whole story. I even told her about the cars and boats and about him still being a womanizer like he was before and a shitty husband. When I finished telling her, her exact response was, "It's a shame he chose the wrong woman." And I had a really bad feeling.
I don't like where this is going.
For the next months, things got weird. Dee and Jay started following each other on Instagram, and she began to post thirst traps on her stories daily. He is a Christian, and she started to also post Bible quotes daily. Then out of nowhere, she tells everyone she found an old friend on Instagram from when she was a teenager, and she was going on a trip to Jay's town, where she used to live when she got pregnant, to meet her friend. We went to the mall with my sister Elle a few days before her trip, and Dee bought her... I don't need to know this, and I don't think she needed to know this. New panties and a nightgown. It was all really weird, and I started to suspect she was going to meet Jay. After a few weeks of me thinking I was going insane, the truth came out. Jay called me to say he was renting an apartment in his town and Dee was going to live with him. Dee announced that she was divorcing from E, but never mentioned Jay. She claimed she was unhappy and wanted to start a new life, so she was going away to her old town to live with her friend. I went nuts. I was blindsided by all this drama and asked them to tell the truth to everyone. Dee was abandoning E, L and R for my father, and I felt like it was my fault. It's not your fault. Your mum's just... yeah. There's no nice word for it, so I really don't want to say anything.
Did it hurt when you fell out of somebody's arse into the toilet, you piece of...
Narcissist is the nicest fucking possible term. Dee begged me to cover for her because she didn't want anyone to know about her. See? Classic narcissism. To know about her and Jay, but I kept pressuring them, so she came clean. My sister was especially mad and very protective of her father, didn't want anything to do with Dee. My brother was like, I don't understand, but I don't really care. I was extremely disappointed and angry because Dee was now abandoning L and R like she did with me and G. Yeah. People like this don't change. It's been 2 years since she left. My sister eventually forgave her. E has a new girlfriend and everything went back to normal, or at least a new normal. But here's the thing. Dee and Jay now want me to accept them as my mum and dad. No, they can go fuck themselves. They have not been there for you at all during your whole entire life. No. And play pretend family with them. They constantly invite me to spend time with them, and at first I did, but it was so bad for my mental health that it made me say no a few times, and now I'm completely low contact with them. Now that they are a couple, they visit my maternal family and complain about me. Seriously. They say I'm heartless, that I should forgive them. Easy for them to say that I should spend time with them and travel to their town to be at their house. They say I'm unflexible, I'm stubborn, I'm ungrateful. But I feel it's unfair. When I needed them to be mum and dad, no one wanted to be a family. I had to learn to live without their love, to be strong for myself. I had to live with the consequences of their choices and mistakes. And now that I'm a well-adjusted, successful adult, they want to play family to the world. They want to claim my success as theirs. I just can't. I lived a very traumatic life because of their choices. I felt unloved and uncared for, and now they want me to love and care about them. They claim that I need to be present for them and my sisters, and that I need to understand their choices and that mistakes were made, but they meant no harm. Do you want to know why Jay divorced his wife? 1 year before I followed him on Instagram, another daughter of his did the same. She is 2 years older than me and another affair kid. His wife didn't know about her. Jay claimed he knew, but thought she wasn't his, so he never mentioned her or her mother. This girl is JJ, and she desperately wanted a father, to the point she caused Jay's divorce by fighting constantly with his wife and showing up uninvited in theirs. When Jay met JJ, he felt so guilty he wanted to be the father she needed. So when his wife opposed to this, he simply divorced. Now JJ works with him at his shop and his BFFs with Dee. She messaged me on Instagram saying she always wanted a sister, but I just ignored her. I hate that she exists because her experience basically makes mine unacceptable to them. Because she forgave Jay and became the perfect daughter, I should do the same. JJ and her husband are always having dinner with Jay and Dee, while me and... She has not had the same experience as you. I can't even. While me and F are distant. In fact, F hates J and D. Yeah, so do I, and I have never even met them. So he's always making sure I don't overstep my boundaries just to be a good girl to two people who never cared about me. I'm doing therapy, trying to be a good granddaughter, sister and girlfriend, but I don't try anymore to be a good daughter. I don't want to be in their lives, and I hate that they choose each other instead of me. I hate that D chose several men and J chose his wife instead of their kids. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive them and have a relationship, and honestly, I don't know if I want to. I can only give back the love I received, and that's why I chose to protect my mental health instead of theirs. I've sent them both a huge message explaining my feelings, asking them to respect my distance, and saying that if they have the right to be absent for 30 years, then they need to accept if it takes me more than 30 years to forgive them. This is my story with my parents, and I think for now I'm fine with being the villain of their story. Oh my god. First of all, bravo if English is not your first language, but oh my god, the fact that you had to go through all of that trauma, your sister dying, and they are still putting their shitty choices on you is revolting. They deserve never to be part of your life, but like you say, if it takes you 30 years to forgive them, you are well within your right to do that. Who the fuck do they think they are to be able to have abandoned you for so many years, to have expected so fucking much of you, speaking of your mum, expecting you to take care of her kids, abandoning you for multiple men, creating multiple new fucking families, and then just expecting you to forgive her? Fuck off. But let's see what Reddit had to say, shall we? Someone said, sometimes you have to be the villain. Hell, be even more villainous and tack on another 30 for good measure. It would be well deserved. Good luck, stay strong and stay sane. I'm sorry about your sister. Was there a reason why she committed suicide at such a young age, or was it an unexplained mental illness? The fact that you have PTSD from your parents playing musical partners all your life means you have to protect yourself, and the fact they don't acknowledge what happened to you because of it is very wrong. You don't owe them anything, not your time, your money, or your life. They gave it all up during your tender years when you actually needed them. So the fact that they wanted to play happy families now is disgusting. Continue being the anti-hero, not the villain, all you want. Also, F is amazing for protecting you. Yeah, I completely forgot to even mention that. Yeah, your partner F, saint. When my sister died, everyone was desperate for answers. She grew up seeing my father's alcoholism. Yeah, that probably didn't help. And how this deeply affected their family. We also learned that she was in a secret relationship with an 18-year-old boy who had a girlfriend. And of course, we can only assume she felt rejected and unloved by her parents. Her therapist claimed she never mentioned wanting to die and seemed mostly fine. So at the end, I think it was everything at once, combined with the challenges of being a teenager. I wish I knew her better and helped her. I wish she knew how much I loved her and wanted her with me. About my parents, they lack the ability of owning their own mistakes. Every time we try to talk, it's just excuses on top of excuses, and now they are a team against me. That's why I don't try anymore. I'm lucky to have F. He's been there for me during the worst times of my life, and now is helping me live the best ones. Love that. The last part, obviously. This is one of those stories, then OP is genuinely just in tragedy after tragedy. I hope you cut them out for good and focus on your and F and not on people who don't deserve it. I'm good with being the villain in your story because you're the shit show in mine. I fucking love that. Said to my sister after 50 years of listening to the golden child whine and blame me for all her problems. Jesus Christ, this story is a train wreck of betrayal, and your mum betrayed her boyfriend when she cheated on him. She betrayed you by acting like you didn't exist. She betrayed G by turning her back to her after she died, which you are not responsible for, so you shouldn't feel guilty about that. Please don't blame yourself for your sister's death. Next. She just betrays L and R, who hasn't this woman betrayed. It almost sounds like your mum is dealing with borderline personality disorder and is also unhinged. OP, I don't blame you for being the villain in your family. If you can even call them family. At this point, they're basically acquaintances, but I would highly recommend you seek out therapy to deal with your mother's rejection of you. She is diagnosed with bipolar disorder but doesn't take any meds and also doesn't believe in therapy. She's very impulsive with money, explosive, resentful, and has several narcissistic traits. I said narcissistic. Sometimes I think deep down my father has good intentions, but he will always choose his women first and his kids last, so he just agrees with my mother's shitty behaviour. Yeah, I don't disagree. OP, I feel like it might be best if you cut contact with your mum and move on with your life. Clearly this woman is just going to try and make you feel miserable to make herself feel better. I also recommend you seek out therapy for yourself because it might be good for your mental health. Therapy is good whenever. My goodness, what a story. That took up like 40 minutes raw, so we are going to call it there. I have another Excel entitled parent story, so if you want to see me react to that, make sure to give us a like and subscribe if you feel like it. I'd really appreciate it. Leave me a comment if you are enjoying these Reddit reactions. Let me know if there's any specific ones you want me to look at, if you want me to go back to Bridezillas, if you want me to go to other entitled siblings, maybe entitled children, or I don't know. Let me know in a comment. I'm sure there's loads of Reddit threads I could go through. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye!